Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Good. Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Apart from coughing.
Like that last minute cough I had. Like,
We've been through enough where I just immediately choke up, so it happens.
all good.
Today we are going to be doing a little bit of different. We're going to do our annual Portillo's bet on the Game Awards. Basically, make our predictions of who's going to win all the different Game Awards at the Game Awards this coming Thursday, I believe. I've been so tuned out, I'm not really paying attention.
It's Thursday. This Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna just kind of run through the categories. Don't have like probably much stake in a handful of them, so maybe we'll do those as like starter categories that won't actually count, and then we'll dive into the ones where we actually have like some actual insight and say. But yeah, and then whoever wins, whoever gets the most of these predictions right, will treat the other two Portillos at some time in the future, as we often do. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, starting out, Cam, just in terms of like kind of starter categories and stuff like that, these are the ones that we basically like that are in there, but we kind of skip over. We're not going to talk about any of the like esports stuff because we don't really care about any of those, or certainly I don't. You might still be tuned in, but even
no,
there, I don't think you're really like after Overwatch League, you've not really kept up with like what are the esports teams in League and whatnot. There was like one esports game of the year or something like that, and I was like, I don't even know what this game is.
Yeah.
Like mobile something bang bang.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Like,
that was usually Overwatch's spot. So, but Overwatch, yeah, it just fell apart after the Microsoft acquisition. Definitely like that was like the pillow over the like person on life support.
Yeah.
Like moment. To the point where like it was just Saudi money keeping it going. So yeah, like to the point that I will say like nothing right now in esports interests me. I do not like. I have never found League an exciting game to watch. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like playing League of Legends, much less watching it.
Yeah.
My love for Arcane that I mentioned last week aside, like this is not my love.
The closest I ever got back when like I first played Fortnite for a little bit, like I would watch a couple like Fortnite, big matches with like Golden Boy shoutcasting or something like that. But
oh, for sure.
Like, yeah, like even there, I was like, this is more out of a curiosity, especially because so build heavy. And I was like, even when I was playing in build mode, I would never do build. So just like seeing them like build up into the sky and stuff like that, I'm just like, what the no? Like I'm never gonna do that, let alone like try any of that stuff.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, so completely kind of glossing over any of the esports stuff, but we will talk about some of the other categories that like I have them deemed like we can make our picks, but they're not going to count towards like the point totals. First one here, best sport/racing game. The nominees are F124, EA Sports FC25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, and WWE 2K24. Last year's winner was Forza Motorsport. What do you think is gonna take it for this one? Oh, and we'll do we will have like our pick, what we think, what we would pick if we have a pick. For example, I don't have a pick for best sports racing game because I didn't play any of these. I don't care. I have no like stake in this race. So we'll have our pick and then our prediction. My prediction is EA Sports FC25. Because
that is also mine.
That's like the FIFA.
That is the FIFA replacement.
Without the FIFA branding.
I have not played 25. I will be completely honest. In my exodus at my parents' house, at one point, like it came up as like a free game. The 24 last year's version came up as a free game to promote 25 coming out this year, and I got really into that. By the way, I'm now a big Liverpool fan. You never walk alone. Shout out to Liverpool.
Whatever.
Yep, it's a weird thing that has happened. I became very into soccer, football, during my exodus at my parents. So yeah, I looking at this, like that would also be my pick for sure. Out of the games, like my personal pick out of these, I haven't played FC 25 yet, so I can't speak to that. But WWE 2K24 I did pick up when it was a PlayStation Plus pickup. Got that, and I have really enjoyed it. It's not as good. A lot of the stuff, like story wise, for my career mode is not as good as last year, but it's serviceable. It's cool because early on, basically, you're like, it's a whole contenders thing about like championship. Like you got a shot to get it, and it's all about Roman Reigns like taking break to go to Hollywood, which didn't happen in real life.
Sure,
but
they went with the old like when The Rock went to go be the Scorpion King kind of it
idea. Was after it's supposed to be big off of like he breaks the record for longest holding champ.
Sure.
And then he's like, cool, I'm gonna go do this. And so the interim champ becomes Cody Rhodes, and then you are like set up to beat him and you win the match, but it's after interference by Roman Reigns to screw over Cody Rhodes. And so you are trying to prove that you are a legitimate champion. And that's kind of the look they got. It's not as good as quote unquote the lock run that I felt was like very good and very interesting in WWE 2K23. So not as good, but overall, like they've improved the systems. Like they're continuing to improve that game engine and doing a really great job of it. So
WWE 2K24 would be your pick, but EA Sports FC25 your prediction.
100%.
Cool. Up next, best sim/strategy game. We actually like played one of these, but it's much more about like, we're not enough of the sim strategy people. The nominees are Age of Mythology Retold, which I guess technically I played the original way back when. Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Manor Overlords, and Unicorn Overlord. Last year's winner in this category was Pikmin 4. My pick and prediction are Unicorn Overlord. I feel like that's the one that like made the most waves. Maybe Frostpunk 2, but this always comes down to like who's actually voting on this, because it's not like maybe a lot of people are going to abstain because they're not the sim strategy people as well. But it's this feeds into like, one of the many problems of the Game Awards is that they don't have like the dedicated experts voting on the categories that they really focus and cover. You have everybody's kind of a generalist apart from like the esports side of things. And maybe some of those outlets like IGN kind of defer to whoever their esports or their sim expert is. But a lot of others are going to just go with like, this is the one I recognize, this is the name I know, or this is the one that I played a little bit of. But so Unicorn Overlord, but I wouldn't be surprised if like a Frostpunk 2 comes in here and takes it. I don't know. Like Age of Mythology, fun when I played the original way back in the day. I can't imagine like the remaster did so well that it's going to come in and like take this award. What are you thinking on this one?
For me, I'm torn because I do own Frostpunk 2 as a gift for my birthday from a friend. Unfortunately, it was a Steam gift, so I haven't been able to play it.
Sure.
And my love of the original Frostpunk, like I deeply love that game. And so like my heart wants to go to that, but I haven't played it. I think you're right. I think I also predicted Unicorn Overlord, and that is also my pick. I had a great time with Unicorn Overlord when you let me borrow it. And, I think it is a really extremely good game. We talked about it ad nauseum on the podcast, so I don't feel like we have to go into it, but an absolute stunner of a first entry point to this type of game for Vanillaware. And I think that'll probably carry it. The fact but I think a real contender for sure is Frostpunk 2. It might take the cake because the Frostpunk community is super passionate.
Sure.
So
up next, best fighting game. This is one I don't have a pick for, but I do have like a prediction of who I think would win here. But again, we're in the like no points are gonna matter zone. The nominees here are Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Arcade Classics, maybe 2. I don't know. Some of these I was like, I know we're not going to care too much about this, so I maybe didn't get the full names. Multiverses and Tekken 8. My prediction here is Tekken 8. I feel like that's the one that made the most waves. I feel like Multiverses made waves when it was back like originally in early access kind of stuff, and then like just immediately like did all of the wrong things when they took it offline for a long time. Then when they finally brought it back this year, like I feel like everybody would like the things I remember about it were people being like, "You're charging that fucking much for a Joker skin? Fuck you."
Yep.
Nope. And then people just over the like the cross pollination of all the IPs and stuff of that one.
Like, don't get me wrong, it was fun seeing the Shaggy meme, like the Super Saiyan Shaggy, like Shaggy is the most powerful character in all of fiction meme come to life in that game, but it just really doesn't work. I think it's a really interesting idea. I don't know why they ever decided to go through with it, but you know.
Oh, money, because they want money.
Well, they wanted money, but like, why would you make a Super Smash Brothers clone to make money?
Because they want money, and those are all the IP they have. This is Warner Brothers. They've been making purely dollar-driven ideas for a while, and it worked for them. Probably on this game far better than like Suicide Squad, Rise of the Justice, or Kill the Justice League, or whatever. So.
Yeah, that's fair. I see your point to that. My question is like, that's not the genre you do to like make a game that makes money. Like,
I mean, it wasn't. It probably was here because it was free to play. So it was like, hey, get people in, and it's basically bright and shiny like Fortnite. So, hey, mom and dad, can I buy this Shaggy skin? Or
yeah,
they're probably not buying the Shaggy skin, but can I buy this Batman skin or something like that? And mom and dad being like, all right, fine, son.
I guess, yeah, like the Fortnite effect, they were trying to replicate that.
Yeah.
I also feel like somebody's kid is like a massive like Project Melee fan, and they're like, my kid is obsessed with this type of game. It must be that. I don't know. It's weird. For me, this is also Tekken 8. That's my prediction. My personal pick is Capcom versus Marvel versus Capcom Fighting Collection. There's a real possibility this could also win it because it contains Marvel versus Capcom 2, which is definitively one of, if not the best fighting game of all time.
Sure.
I love that game so much.
Knowing who we know, I feel like Blessing got super excited for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
It's a real contender too
in the late run of things. But I think he would probably be like he got super into Tekken early in the year.
Tekken's just
still be his go-to on this.
The nostalgia factor of Dragon Ball is super there. Like, it's really there, and it's a fan service game. Mm-hmm. I almost want to call it more of an arcade game than a like fighting game.
What is arcade classics?
Oh, arcade, but
oh wait, yeah.
I'm talking about Dragon Ball. Yeah, Dragon Ball feels much more like an arcade based game as far as like the kind of like theme park aspects of it, because it is visiting all of Dragon Ball Z.
Sure.
And it's everybody's in there. Like, that's kind of the it's like a Super Smash Brothers brawl, like they're all here type thing.
That was Ultimate.
Ultimate.
Everyone is here.
Yeah, everyone is here. That's very much the feeling of this.
Yeah.
So it could, like, there's enough Dragon Ball fans, they could push it if they wanted to vote for it.
Yeah. Street Fighter 6, for the record, was last year's winner on that one. So we'll see how this plays out. Up next, Best VR/AR. The nominees here are Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. Last year's winner was Resident Evil Village VR. My prediction here, again, having played none of these, I don't really have a dog in this race, but my prediction is Batman Arkham Shadow, just because it's got like the Arkham lineage behind it, and like Arizona Sunshine, a remake of a VR game from like 7 or 8 years ago or whatever. Yeah. It's like, that seems weird. Asgard's Wrath 2, maybe the other potential frontrunner here. I heard good things about it, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't follow the space enough to really say one way or the other on that.
Same, as far as my aspect of it, like the most I've heard of anything would be Asgard's Wrath 2, but I'm also going to say Batman Arkham Shadow.
Yeah.
Batman Arkham Shadow got really good reviews. It's the recency bias. I think it just has a lot more going for it as far as going into the votes.
Sure. And then the last of the kind of not for points picks here. Best mobile game. The nominees are AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero. Last year's winner was Honkai Star Rail. What do you think on this one? I imagine it's probably between two. Where are you thinking on this?
I'm thinking it's Balatro. As somebody who hasn't played Balatro, I have no interest in playing it. However, the hook Balatro gets into people, I think that's what's going to carry this.
Would your pick be Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket?
No, my pick would also probably be Balatro.
Oh, okay.
Like if I'm talking about what is the best mobile game of this year,
sure,
it's Balatro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balatro is both my pick and my prediction as well. My rule of thumb, and I'll repeat this when we get to indie game, is if it's nominated in the best game of the year section, it's probably going to win whatever its little miscellaneous category is as well. Like, I can't think of any indie games that have been nominated for game of the year and not won the indie game of the year that year, kind of thing. So yeah, Balatro is my pick, and it's also easily one of my favorite games of the year. Played it a ton back when it came out. It didn't bother picking it up on mobile, but I played it a ton on PS5 back at launch, and yeah, it's just a ton of fun and is a perfect fit for mobile. So I fully understand why it kind of got a second life there. That said, shout out to Pocket, a Pokemon trading card game, Pocket. We both obviously been playing that a ton. I don't know if you're still.
I am
checking in on it and stuff. Yeah,
every day, get my free boosters.
Yep, getting the boosters, doing the little events and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
doing my wonder picks.
I've now got enough booster points that if I really, really want it, I could buy the immersive Mewtwo and have all of the immersive cards.
Oh, cool.
But I'm still just like using the free picks each day on the Mewtwo packs to try and just get it naturally, so that I can maybe continue saving up those points for one of like the super like gold hologram ones or whatever they are.
Yeah, I need. That's the only immersive one I don't have, because I did pick up Pikachu and Charizard.
Nice.
Very frustrated because I was trying for a very long time to get the Mewtwo one first. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, but the only thing I have, I'm 5 or 10 points away from getting 150 for my pack points to get Magneton and finish my 151.
So what I was going to say is there's a fourth immersive, and that is the Mew card.
Yes,
that you get for the full Kanto Pokedex.
Yep. Last one I
have that one as well.
Yep. Last one I have is Magneton, and once I get that, I will have that one immersive one as well, and hopefully I'll also pull the Mewtwo around that time, and then,
cool.
Not be done, because free packs are free packs,
Sure. All right. So diving into where the points are actually going to start mattering. First category up here, and I think we'll have. Let's see. Let me total this up. We're going to have a total of looks like 21 categories that will be kind of going up for. The first one up, most anticipated game. Last year's winner was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The nominees this year are Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I'll throw out there my pick for this one is Ghost of Yotei. That's the one I'm most excited for of that batch. But my prediction for what's going to win is going to be Grand Theft Auto 6. I think that's like we're close enough now that people are going to be like, oh my God, yes. Even though, it's been a year and we haven't really gotten anything new from Grand Theft Auto since they revealed their trailer at the end of last year. It's just going to be like, well, people are clamoring for that. And Rockstar knows that they don't need to like do anything more for it.
Yep. It's a known quantity.
People are going to want it.
Duplicate mine. Yep. I'm duplicate of yours. Like
same.
It is. Yep. Same. Ghost of Yotei is for sure on mine. As we did that awesome spoiler cast back when Tsushima came out. Ghost was our game of the year that year for the site.
Overall.
Yeah, overall it was our game of the year. It was obviously the four of us, the only one that we all played, but no, we played multiple. Like there was crossover that we all played multiple games that year. But
I don't think so. I think that was the only one that all of us had played.
Okay,
because for the first few years that was pretty much the trend, where it was like the game that everybody poured points into was the game that just naturally rose to the top. And for each of the first few years, there was only one game that all four of us had played. That's why like Borderlands 3 is regrettably our 2019 game of the year and shit like that. So.
We have a constant reminder of that giant loot box case thing that you have up there.
Sure. Yeah.
To be like, that's our shame.
Did you? I don't know if you saw. Kind of Funny or Blessing just put out like a new Kind of Feudy survey.
Oh, I haven't clicked on it and filled it out yet.
One of the questions in there is like, what game's humor makes your eyes roll? And I was like, Borderlands. Borderlands is my go-to pick for that. Where it's like, yeah, I enjoyed it much more when I was younger and dumber, but now I look at their humor and it's like, Yeah, these are bad juvenile jokes. Anyway, so yeah, Ghost of Tsushima was a former Game of the Year winner for that nerdy site, and yeah, I think we're all, and I'm sure Logan is also excited for a Ghost of Yotai follow up. Next up, best adaptation. The nominees here are Arcane, which you talked about in last week's show, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon Yakuza, and Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft. Last year's winner in 2023 was, of course, The Last of Us. Arcane won it, though, a couple years ago when the first season came out, so we'll see if they repeat this year. My pick here and my prediction, just because of the goodwill it received and the waves that it made, is Fallout. Especially after, like, it was like, maybe Arcane will do it, but when you were like, people didn't really like Arcane Season 2 all that much, it's like, okay, I'll go ahead and bank it into the Fallout bucket. But
People really did love it, but it was noticeably like
a letdown compared to the first season.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like the difference between like a perfect 10, like it is the only one of the only shows on IMDb, I believe, that has like a above 9.0 rating for every episode. But you are like, when you get into season 3, like there are just hiccups and hitches that really hurt it. And so that's its weakness. So if you want to compare it to the first season, it's not as good for sure. And I don't think anybody's going to argue that, but I think a lot more hype, cool stuff happens in season 2, but it just needed to be paced better. Fallout's still my pick though. Fallout's my pick, and Fallout is also my prediction. The universal appeal that Fallout has and the Fallout TV show had was immense. The like new wave of people who had never played Fallout games getting into Fallout games, playing, like being like, what Fallout game should I play? 4, New Vegas, like what should I do? Fallout 76.
Went back and finally got my platinum in Fallout 4.
Yeah, like it did a lot. Like it did a lot for a lot of people. And so I just see that being the case. Also, I feel like Arcane, if there's one thing we learned about Arcane, it's that like people who love League really love it. People who love animation really love it. Fallout, though, covers a lot more bases. It has a lot of humor, a lot of dark tone, like a dark tone of humor on it. And it has like that dystopian feel that's really big and popular. Even if you don't know anything about Fallout lore, it is a fun look at dystopia that people who even didn't know anything about Fallout before fell really in love with. So,
either way, I think it's going to be a good night for Ella Purnell.
Yep. Oh yeah, Ella Purnell living the life.
Yeah.
Like shout out to that gal.
Plus,
she's awesome.
It's one of those things that like I got to imagine since they recently just started putting stuff and like releasing like Walton Goggins kind of back in the makeup for season 2. I got to imagine this is going to be one of those things where it wins, and also here's a special sneak peek at behind the scenes season 2 or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Up next, best multiplayer game. The winner last year, my favorite there, Baldur's Gate 3. Shout out to that, just being being one of the surprise categories that they won in. But the nominees this year: Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. What are you thinking on this one, Cam?
So this is really interesting. I think my personal pick is probably going to be Helldivers 2, but my prediction is going to be Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2.
Okay.
There was, I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of rhetoric and a lot of fall off that people had about Helldivers 2.
Sure.
Between the PSN fiasco, as well as some like balance patches that really drove people off. And it happened around the same time that Warhammer 40K showed up, and people have really gravitated towards that. There was a lot of fervor around 40K Space Marine 2. It has just had, I feel like, a lot of time to like really resonate with people, and it's the recency bias as well. That being said, I think it's a real like we're talking same sphere of like, and this is another thing too. They're this almost like very similar kind of games. Helldivers 2 is a little bit more comedic, but they are both about like dystopia, and one is just more like fantasy-esque with Space Marine.
Yeah, I my pick and prediction are Helldivers 2. While yes, there was some fall off with like PlayStation shooting themselves in the foot and stuff. I think they reversed course in a way that like made a lot of those fans happy. And while I think I think there's a greater time window between like the fall off there and when Warhammer Space Marine 2 came out. So I don't think it was like, oh, the people left Helldivers and went to Space Marine. I also think it was like Space Marine 2 seemed to largely be like oh, this is a fun throwback game, but it's not really like, you know, blowing people's minds or anything like that. I feel like the visual I have in my mind is listening to people talk about it on podcasts while I'm playing Astrobot, and I feel like Astrobot was probably dominating the conversation. So Space Marine 2 feels like even an afterthought.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that might be.
When it came out and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Helldivers 2 at the beginning of the year, it was like Pal World blew everything up, and then Helldivers 2 came and became like the game of the moment and blew everything up as well. And I think that's a bigger surprise. And so I think, and especially in terms of like the broader audience that is voting on Game Awards stuff, I think Helldivers 2 is the more notable, whereas Warhammer, even Space Marine 2 here being very much like, oh, it's like, you know, an old Gears game or something like that, still feels very niche compared to like the you know, it's breaking all sorts of Steam charts records for Helldivers 2 back at launch. So that's my pick and where I'm going with it. And shout out to them for having, you know, a great year. And yeah, they suffer, as all of these games do, from like drop off that, you know, live service games are going to get when new things come out, when other things come out. But I think they still had an incredible year, most notably in like just how surprised everybody was by how good it was and how much it was like blowing the doors off of records. And it was very much like, I mean, it is the highest selling Sony like exclusive, right? Because they launched it on Steam Day and date kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it did crazy numbers there. Probably didn't do as much as, you know, a Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation, you know, itself.
Natively, yeah.
But it was like, holy shit, it is trouncing all of the other, you know, numbers.
The problem that you're running in with that, and this is where I think some of the controversy still stands, is there's a lot of people who when you said they reversed, you went on like a roll, and I want to let you like cover it because I thought it was great. When they reversed course, they did it in a way that did piss people off as well, because what they did is they reversed course saying you don't need to do a PSN profile, like you don't need to connect that, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But what they did on the back end is they went to all the countries that don't, like PSN isn't available in, and turned it off for availability there.
Yeah, but I'm still thinking of the meme that they like were going to turn into a cape of like, and maybe they actually did. I don't remember.
Oh, the creek. I remember the creek.
I
remember the creek.
The down votes and then like the restored up votes and like that thing being.
Oh, that meme cape. Are they referring to the creek? Stuff.
No, I don't know what the hell that means.
There's a planet that was heavily contested between us and the machines for a very long time. I did my service there as well. We remember the creek.
I'm thinking specifically of announcement happens, people downvote, so you get a big old orange bar, and then PlayStation reverses course like 3 days later, and people are like, they listened to us, go back and change your votes and like give them positive reviews, and people actually did. And so you have like, the blue bars going.
I just don't know if enough people ended up going back is my thing.
But I think that still dominates. Like the fact that it made that much of a wave compared to Warhammer just feels like it was another game that came out this year, to me at least.
Sure.
Up next, best family game. We have last year's winner was Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which is wild because that is a game I have not thought about since. But this year's nominees are Astrobot, The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, The Plucky Squire, Princess Peach Showtime, and Super Mario Party Jamboree. My pick and hopefully prediction, and the thing that I really want to win is Astrobot, of course. I will be very annoyed if this just continues to be the default Nintendo category, because I don't think either Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom or especially Princess Peach Showtime deserve the best family game compared to just the absolute joy of Astrobot.
I 100% agree with you. That is also my pick and prediction as well.
Yeah.
I just don't see with how good Astrobot is that it would not be the one. Like, it would not be the pick. You cannot tell me that Echoes of Wisdom. I didn't play Princess Peach Showdown. I don't know but from what I heard from other people, you can't tell me that the joy and pleasure that Astrobot gives you on like just emphatically on a level of just pure dopamine hit. You can't beat that by any of these other games.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Echoes of Wisdom a lot. Like, I gave it like an 8, 8.5. Like, I was in that range on it. Astrobot's a 10 out of 10. Like, it's one of the best goddamn video games of this year that is filled with best goddamn video games.
Yeah. That's, again, going to the indie game thing. One of these games is nominated for Game of the Year. So if it doesn't also win Best Family Game here among these other games, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Both of us in the same boat on Astrobot there. Up next, Best Role-Playing Game. Last year's winner, of course, Baldur's Gate 3. Shout out to that. The nominees here this year are Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and A Metaphor ReFantazio. My pick here, and I went back and forth on this. I have zero faith in the Game Awards, so I fully expect Shadow of the Erd Tree to win here. But I'm going to hope against hope and make my prediction Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and that is also my pick for Best RPG of the Year. But I will, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Metaphor ReFantazio, as I've talked about on the podcast before, are all like any given day, I'm going to be thinking fondly of all three of those games kind of thing.
For sure.
I hate that a DLC here is up for so many awards as it is, and this certainly, is in there in that camp of like, well, a couple of these are nominated for Game of the Year, so it's probably going to be one of them.
Yeah.
And Shadow of the Erd Tree is certainly one of them.
Three of these are nominated for. Yeah.
It was a good year for RPGs.
RPGs had a great year.
Yeah.
Like, Baldur's Gate 3 really like kicked the door open and said, we're just the first one.
Yep.
And we got all the others.
Indeed. So yeah, I'm going with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for both, but I have so little faith in the Game Awards that I think this could easily be like one of those places where it's like, well, tonight's going to be a good night for Shadow of the Erd Tree, I guess, even though you have to have, played a whole other game to do this one. So, how do you justify that kind of bullshit? But fucking Jeff loving his Elden Ring. What do you think on this one?
So for me, so here's the deal. I'm looking at my sheet right now. My initial prediction was going to be that it's going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. However, I will counterpick yours and choose Elden Ring Shadows of the Erd Tree.
Yeah.
To do a counterpick, because we're getting a lot of samies here.
Sure.
So let's divvy it up a bit. I feel like that. I also feel like it's a safe bet. On top of that, though, my personal pick is actually Metaphor ReFantazio.
Okay.
Showing my cards a little bit for Game of the Year for us.
Yeah, certainly.
But
that's we're inevitably going to get there when we are like, here's what my pick for Game of the Year would be at this point. But yeah, we'll obviously still have our proper Game of the Year stuff in the weeks ahead. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me either. I know, especially like Metaphor ReFantazio, a phenomenal game, and is probably easily in my top 5 right now. I'd have to actually look, but I know, knowing the two of us, my Final Fantasy VII love runs deeper, and like Remake was my Game of the Year that year that it came out.
It was not mine.
And Rebirth was an incredible fun way to start the year. And Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth was an incredible fun way to start the year, and then I got Rebirth, and so it was just like I was riding high for like the first 4 months of the year on my JRPGs. And Metaphor ReFantazio was like not really even on my radar until they released the demo, and played the demo, and then just burned through the rest of the game over the next few weeks and had a great time with it. But it's enough of a it does what it does great. But I really liked the things that Final Fantasy Rebirth brought to the table in terms of like, especially it being like it's a twist on a story you already know kind of thing.
For sure.
And the changes they made and the things they kind of kept the same, and just how they blew that up. Was a ton of fun.
Like, listen, it's not easy that like it's not a simple thing that Metaphor beat Final Fantasy VII Remake for me, in my opinion, of best RPG of the year.
Sure.
It was a tall order, but there's a deep love that I have for what Metaphor does and what it says that like and I'll get to it when we talk about Game of the Year stuff, like in our proper That Nerdy Site stuff, but there's something that it delivers on for me that runs very deep to my core and it deals with like politics.
Yeah.
Like my political like interest runs deeper than yours.
Sure.
I feel. Part of it is like my past is being like working in journalism and stuff like that. And so I have like a deeper, like my well runs deep on that, and Metaphor like does such a great job of tapping into that. That for me, that's why it's my personal pick for best RPG of the year.
Sure.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best game of the year, but
Yep. Up next, best action adventure game. Last year's winner here, of course, was Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. The nominees this year are Astrobot, Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, and Star Wars Outlaws.
that one should not be on there.
I agree. It is one of those like, oh, it's a maybe a lighter year on action adventure stuff, but
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I just God, like sorry, I'm just getting angry just seeing that there.
just Star Wars Outlaws. Astrobot again. My pick and prediction on this one. I think again going to the like, well, one of these is nominated for Game of the Year, so it seems like likely that it would go ahead and win here. Unless a lot of people are like, well, we're going to go ahead and vote it for Game of the Year, so we'll go ahead and share the wealth here. I don't think people do that as much as, like, we say they do it or anything like that. So, yeah, Astrobot, my pick here. I could see Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown taking it if more people played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's a very good action-adventure game. I had a great time with it at the beginning of the year. But
they came back and said it didn't do well enough, though. That's the thing.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, critically, great game. Sales wise, tanked, and so like the team that worked on it has basically already been shuttered. As it's because Ubisoft is just fucking floundering all over the place as they have been for years.
A lot of bad decisions catching up with them over the last couple of years.
Yeah, on the flip side, Silent Hill 2 could be a dark horse here.
For sure.
Because everybody was like going in not expecting anything, and then that really ended up wowing a lot of people, I think.
Well, they juked us with a really terrible trailer.
Yeah, a lot of really terrible trailers.
Yeah.
And people have, differing opinions on Bloober Team's kind of pedigree going into this, and the original Silent Hill 2 being such a lauded game.
It's a PS2 era like gem.
Yeah. But yeah, I personally, I think Astrobot is the one to beat here.
Yeah, I agree. It's also my personal pick, and this is just once again, a Game of the Year entry is on this in this section. Safe bet to go with it, but also it's the best damn action adventure game that we've had this year.
Yeah. Best action game. Nominees here are Black Myth: Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer Space Marine 2. Last year's winner here, one of your favorites of last year, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Once again, I went Helldivers 2 here. Same justification for all the multiplayer stuff that we kind of already talked about.
Let me double down on my prior one as well. I will say my personal pick, Helldivers 2, but my prediction, I will say Warhammer. That way we kind of like get that going.
Okay. Cool. There we go.
Actually, you know what? Don't have me down for Warhammer. Have me down for Call of Duty Black Ops 6.
Black Ops?
Yeah, Blops 6.
I keep seeing Black Ops 6, and I'm like, wow, we're already up to Blops 6. I feel like I remember Black Ops 3 being like a big thing, and it feels like a year ago or something, but it's like, no, that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Cool.
They put Black Ops after Black Ops 4. They put it on ice for a long time.
I think just given the fervor for it that certain areas had, Especially, it probably did better internationally compared to here in the U.S., even though it did great in the U.S. Black Myth Wukong could easily be another like
For sure.
surprise winner of this category, I think.
I would not be surprised if Black Myth Wukong won this one. Yeah. I feel, however, with how much...
Notably because it is the one that is nominated for Game of the Year. So this is us going against that, like, well, one of these is nominated for Game of the Year, and neither of us are picking it.
I just don't know. Like, I mean, granted, it's one of the best-selling games on Steam of all time. So, like, is that, like, are we betting against that horse? Yeah, but also, I don't know.
I feel like it's a good seller. I don't think it was critically lauded enough compared to, again, Helldivers 2's kind of surprise success or the consistency of Call of Duty Black Ops. Sure.
I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's a Souls-like game post-Erdtree when people were still jonesing for that.
Sure.
So I feel like that was probably a bigger, like, it's kind of like you put your show you really want to make work after your best show on television back in the day. Yeah. Sorry, younger kids don't understand this reference that I'm making. Like
the lead-in show.
The lead-in show, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Up next are our best debut indie category. Last year went to the game Cocoon. This year the nominees are Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and The Plucky Squire. As much as I like The Plucky Squire, I think this is, again, Balatro's award to lose. I think it is both my pick and my prediction on this one.
It's the same on me. I cannot put anything over it, even though I haven't played it. Knowing the hooks that it has, that I mentioned earlier, there's no way it's not like picking this up. Like I said, it's Balatro's to lose, and I just don't see them losing it.
Yeah, Animal Well, I think also wowed a lot of people when it came out, so that might be another dark horse winner here. But again, it's this one very much falls into like Balatro was the game that took people by storm this year. Similarly, best independent game, a lot of repeats here, but last year went to Sea of Stars. Yay for that. The nominees here once again Animal Well and Balatro, but then we have Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. Once again, I'm sticking with Balatro for both my pick and prediction on this, especially because I did not like Neva in as much as a lot of other people did.
Yep, I'm the same.
Yep. Cool. We already talked about that enough. Best community support. Was it last year's winner too? According to this, according to what I put down here, last year's winner was Baldur's Gate 3. That is also my pick and prediction because it is nominated again this year alongside Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. I think,
Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win.
I think it is my pick and prediction. The mod support being the biggest thing, but they've been like giving regular patches and regular updates all year long, and also just announced that we're going to get even more, one last patch in the beginning of.
Wasn't the last patch supposed to be one last patch?
That's what they said, yeah.
They keep saying this, man. They keep saying it.
Maybe patch 8 won't be the last patch, but patch 8 is going to bring, like they just announced, basically it's going to bring crossplay, it's going to bring a photo mode, and it's going to bring a new subclass for each of the classes, because they're just continuing to pour love into this game. They, of course, ran the gamut, winning every major Game of the Year for the last year. So shout out to them. And shout out to the way they've continued supporting the community, especially and most importantly, probably with the mod support. Because, mods were there a year ago, but the fact that they actually, put the proper support into the game and have worked with a lot of mod creators to make it compatible with each of the patch updates and everything.
Yep, you're not having to wait.
You're getting me to play with mods, which is
that's insane.
That's a crazy thing to have happened.
When you're like, oh, they've got mod support. I'm like, how have we switched places in life?
Yeah,
like that's crazy that you're so deep into the mod well on that one. But also, it usually takes maybe a month for new patches to be mod compatible or mods to be compatible with a new patch. And the fact that from as soon as they can, the community support team at Larian Studios is just there with the community working on it. Just speaks volumes to their dedication.
not only is it like mod support on PC, but also the consoles
console version
have great.
That's
mod support.
insane.
There is like different mod support, and there are a lot of
Yeah.
mods on PC that aren't compatible on console. But a lot of the ones that started as compatible on PC, they've been like working and like Larian is like basically Larian will submit it on behalf of the mod creators to get it approved and get it, through the certification process to get it onto console. So like even the stuff on console, more than half the mods that I'm playing in like my PC game would work just fine in the console version now, even if they weren't available kind of at the beginning there. So yeah, shout outs to the great support that Larian is doing over there. I could easily see again though, going back to just the amazing success from the beginning of the year. Helldivers 2 could be like a surprise pick for this, but I think and Final Fantasy 14 is always like a front runner in this category.
Not this year. It's really not going to get it this year. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of backlash from the community, from certain parts of the community, regarding a couple things. Like, there's always people who are like, "Hey, we want this to be better," and they're active in speaking about it. But this one in particular it's been a rough year for Final Fantasy 14. In my review for Dawn Trail, like I went into and I explained like what works and what doesn't work. I think they've done a lot of things to like support it, but a lot of the detraction is notably from a bunch of butt munchers who can pound sand for all I care.
Sure.
And unfortunately there's a big number of them because the anti-DEI, anti-woke crowd piled on for some stuff earlier this year. They dogpiled it. And so I don't know if it'll win because of that, the negative aspects of it that it's had online. But also, I just think Baldur's Gate, Larian Studios, has just done a way better job this year of supporting a game that came out last year.
Yeah.
That is just head and shoulders above everything else. I wouldn't be surprised if Final Fantasy 14, the long-term fans won that one out, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're going with Baldur's Gate 3 for your pick and prediction as well? Cool. Best ongoing game. Nominees here are Destiny 2, The Final Shape, Destiny 4, Vessel of Hatred, Final Fantasy 14, Dawn Trail, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. Last year's winner with the Liberty... I want to say Liberty Prime, but that wasn't it.
Not Liberty City.
Whatever, the DLC.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 won last year. My pick, originally my pick was Final Fantasy 14, but if you're saying that it missed the boat on this, I'll probably switch my pick to what my prediction is and give this to Destiny. I think the Final Shape, by pretty much all accounts, was a masterful final send-off thing. So
coming from OG to Destiny 2 hardcore players, neither of us played it, so
yeah.
I heard really great things about it. It's not my personal pick, but it is one that I'm going to go with as well. I am also predicting that. Mm-hmm. My personal one is Fortnite, though.
Okay.
And let's divvy it up a bit. Let's make Fortnite my actual prediction as well.
Too?
Yeah, let's.
That's fair. I mean, Fortnite.
We got Bull Outro, Baldur's Gate 3. Let's break it up a bit by me saying Fortnite. Fortnite has just had a this is me.
They brought back the OG map, right?
Yeah, they brought back the OG map. Yeah. This is me. The OG, I hate Fortnite, Mr. I hate Fortnite,
yeah.
Mr. Fortnite is trash. I've played just about every major update this year, and they all I think the weaker one was definitely the Mad Max themed inspired vehicle combat, but even that had a lot of fun things to go with it. Awesome, a lot of really cool, awesome ideas that really just didn't, because the vehicle combat just wasn't perfectly right unless you were in squads.
Did I see? Because I have not been following along with the Fortnite stuff at all. Have they already sunset the racing game?
No, it's still going.
It's still there. Okay.
Yeah, no. They have
the
that
racing and the Rock Band spinoff.
Yeah, those are fully supported still.
Okay.
Every time there's a new content, new season rolls around, there's new car stuff.
Sure.
So they keep that alive for sure, and music stuff, they've continued to get more artists. What's interesting is the latest big artist they had, of course, was Snoop Dogg. But before that was a South American Brazilian artist who big international scene, not big US scene. But it's cool to see. I would love to see more of that.
Sure.
I love the idea, even though like her music wasn't really like my style or my vibe. I like the idea because Fortnite is so big around the world. If we got more of these musical touchstones from other countries and other regions, I think that's a really cool idea. They should execute on it. They did a lot of work for that gal and her stuff, like to integrate it into Fortnite. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Juice World stuff that they've done in the last, like they did as part of last season and rolling into this current season. Juice World, of course, very popular artist who passed away a few years ago. Getting to play some of my favorite songs of his in the guitar or rock band mode, basically, has been an absolute pleasure and joy to revisit his music that way. Massive fan of that. It's a just very deep loving tribute. Because I don't know if he was a massive fan of Fortnite or not, but if he was, it's a great tribute to him. Also the Snoop Dogg Eminem, collab with it was sick. It was fun. His like Snoop Dogg's dog themed mansion was sick as hell. Like cool stuff all around. They're killing with the clubs. Now they're doing like a ninja, Mystic Ninja version right now, Mystic Samurai stuff right now with it. That's really fun. I'm enjoying it. Like, granted, my current eye and lens has been taken away by Marvel Rivals, but I was playing it daily for. I've been playing it almost daily for all year, which is insane to say. Mm-hmm. It's crazy to be like looking at Destiny 2, be like, I don't touch that anymore, and be like, but I'm all in on Fortnite.
Yeah,
what has happened to me.
It's the fun ebbs and flows because I like even the Marvel stuff, which I always kicked myself for missing the Marvel stuff the first time around, but then the Marvel stuff came around this time and I was like, I'm burnt out on Fortnite. I'm going to stay away. And so I've not this year I was not really on the Fortnite train. I don't think I played it really at all.
You're the fucking one that got me on the Fortnite
I know.
train.
Yeah. That's the me and Lego Fortnite broke you there. I did buy the Lego Battle Bus set. I have that out there.
Yeah. What's hilarious is I don't even play the Lego one anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Although they've
been adding to that too. I've seen from the Lego things I follow. I've seen they're continuing to add Lego stuff.
Yep, they're killing it. They're every single collab has been awesome this year. Even the ones that was not here's the thing. Their worst collab this year, the vehicle one, was still really good. They're killing it. They're doing great. So yeah, that's Fortnite is my best ongoing and my personal pick.
Cool.
So
all right, we'll see how that one plays out. Up next, Games for Impact. The nominees are Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zao. Last year's winner was Chia, which a fun little game that I remember enjoying fondly last year. This is one where my pick and prediction are differing. Even though I've played 4 of these. And none of them really wowed me particularly. Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, and Tales of Kenzera Zao. As much as I didn't like Tales of Kenzera Zao, that would be my pick here. Especially because of just the shit that the stupid nonsense shit that a bunch of those bad actors threw at Abu Bakr Salim. On that one, being it's a DAI game. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's a DAI game. It's about African folklore with African-looking characters produced by a studio that's run by an African man.
Yeah.
I don't know what DEI has to do with any of this.
Absurd dumbasses that just show how little they know about
games. It's
or words.
The fact that it was an all-black cast, all black people, all-black cast, means it was definitively not diversified in that.
Sure, yeah.
It's so dumb. I hate people so much. Anyway.
The thing I think will win, just because it probably has the more name recognition. I'm gonna say Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, but that is, for as much as I loved the first Hellblade game, this was such a disappointment.
See, this is why I haven't touched it yet this year.
Yeah,
I've had it sitting in my well, granted, the last few months I haven't been here to be playing it on my PC, but it is just hearing that it was how disappointing it was for so many people has made me so scared to touch it because of how much I love the first one.
Yeah, it was a letdown, and basically my issues with a lot of these were they didn't vibe with me. They were disappointments, especially for the sequels on like what came before. But I thought Tales of Kinzera Zao is at least taking a big swing, even if it doesn't click with me. And Tales of Kinzera Zao is the one where I would love to give their next game another shot to see if like it does the thing that, you know, follow-up games can really benefit from, of like, let's learn the lessons, let's kind of improve on the things that the choices we made in the first game. And I appreciate that there is a very deliberate and distinct point of view coming from that one, whereas so many of these other ones just frustrate me. I can't speak to Close of the Distance or Indica because I have not really seen or encountered a lot from either of those games. But of the four that I did play through this year, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, going to be my prediction on that one, for name recognition, oomph behind it, all that stuff.
Yep.
But my pick would be Tales of Kinzera Zao.
I will say, like, there was that update in November that everybody at Surgent Studios is currently on furlough. Basically, like, the team is on hiatus due to lack of funding.
For Tales of Kinzera Zao.
Yeah, for Tales of Kinzera Zao, that is also going to be like my personal pick for it as well, just because we get to see a legitimate, like, African-themed story about African folklore from the lens of somebody who knows that culture. Mm-hmm. This is not a bunch of like studio people at like a AA or AAA studio who did a lot of cool research and are trying to be very authentic to it. This is the like genuine article doing this, and I think from what you talked,
also a very personal story of a man mourning his father, and Abu Bakar has talked about when he debuted it at the Game Awards last year, how much of a personal game it was. About kind of mourning the loss of his own father.
So I think and the thing about it that people talked about, they're like, oh, everything really works except sometimes the game doesn't work for you. Like, it just doesn't work for some folks. You had that issue.
Gameplay wise, like, it was mechanically all there. It was just it was slow, and I just didn't like a lot of the mechanics of it.
Sure.
Those are my big gripes about it.
But I mean, those are legitimately good criticisms for the game. For a debut game to get the kind of like love and like support that it got, even with like asshats out in the anti-woke people like shitting on it. Mm-hmm. The fact that it got the kind of like hype that it got, I think also kind of hurt it as well. Expectations were ranged pretty high for it, despite the fact that it's a brand new studio making a brand new IP, a brand new game, and they've never made a game before. Like, there's a lot of big asks that people asked about it that I felt were, like, looking back on it now, were somewhat unfair.
It was the fact that it had the EA originals kind of like backing behind it. Yeah, it was like, oh, that has like a lineage in and of itself in making those kind of smaller experiences. This of the four I played was the one that I most wished I liked more than I did. Was really what it came down to. Like, a lot of the other ones, I was like, I don't care if this were a better game or not. It's there's just enough of a disappointment there. Yeah. To your comment, I also saw news breaking last night that Deck 9 did another round of layoffs yesterday too.
Gosh.
So, which, like, to a degree, it is to be expected that, like, hey, our game's out. We don't need everybody working now.
It's eliminating redundancy.
Layoffs are a normal thing following a big game release when they don't have like another project that they can immediately just transfer people over to. So, like, not surprising there, but the fact that it was their second round of layoffs for the year and they had the kind of expose stuff early in the year was not a good year for Deck 9, I don't think.
Nope. And I think the fact that also looking back at like what your review of exposure was just not good. Yeah. Like, frustratingly not good. Like, that's the thing that's like, this is a really rough year for Deck 9. But even though it's been a rough year and all that stuff about it, I just don't think it comes close to like what we want more from the industry. What I want more from the industry right now is like something like Tales of Kinzera Zao. Mm-hmm. I want something like that is bringing a really fresh coat of paint to the game's like tapestry that we have.
Is that your prediction as well?
That is my prediction as well,
Okay.
as well as my personal pick out of these. It's the only one that I played, so yeah, that's kind of the bigger thing. It's like that's the only one that I've played.
I didn't know you played that one.
Yeah, I didn't beat it. I haven't beaten it yet, but like I played the demo when it came out, and then I started it up because it was a PS Plus game, so I was able to pick it up.
Gotcha.
But like other things took precedent because you're like, hey, do you want to borrow this game?
Sure.
Do you want to borrow Star Wars Outlaw? Like that definitely took me off the Kinsey It's Out train, and I did not want to go back to. I'll be honest, Outlaws made me want to like put down the controller for the rest of the year a little bit. Like really, like I cannot express how frustrated I am with that game. The fact that like its existence on this list anywhere frustrates me.
Sure. Up next, innovation in accessibility. The nominees here are Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. Last year's winner was Forza Motorsport. My pick and prediction here are Dragon Age Veilguard, but I could also see, like, Star Wars Outlaws did have a lot of, like, you can kind of vary up anything that you want to vary up. I didn't follow closely enough on the Call of Duty or Diablo ones. I remember at the beginning of the year, Prince of Persia being like, oh, like the reason I have the platinum is because I was able to, adjust the difficulty down and stuff like that, and that didn't impact anything. So I appreciated that. But I think that was just kind of people have already forgotten about that game. So I think Dragon Age: The Veilguard hitting it like the moment it hit, probably that's the leading factor for my stuff. But maybe Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has some really good stuff in there. I think shout outs to Steve Saylor, who I believe was a consultant on that one.
Yes, accurate. Yeah, though when they did their features trailer, like I watched that features trailer, even though like I didn't pick it up and play the game, because the features trailer was insane. The rework that they have done with the entire like UI and any sort of like
I guess they have made it like you can pretty much customize the UI however you want it, right? Yeah.
Everything's customizable, and the ease of making it customizable, super like really good. Not only that, but also omnidirection is such a game changer for like players,
sure,
but also for accessibility features, because part of the whole thing with accessibility difficulty is how do you, when you're using like an accessibility controller, move somebody in a way that is like done well enough that you aren't just getting wasted in the game.
Sure.
And omnidirection now lets you move like a person and not just like a joystick. And that has completely changed the game for it. And that's just a cool feature on top of the incredible list of accessibility options. It's why it's my pick for, or it's my prediction. It's not my pick because I haven't played it. My pick for this would actually be Prince of Persia, because you talked about, at the beginning of the year, you talked about how changing it allowed you to get that platinum, which is something that you didn't think you'd be able to do normally otherwise.
Sure.
Which I thought was like, that's really cool. Like, another thing too, if you do these accessibility features, it doesn't lock you out of a platinum or anything too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm surprised they didn't do that. But that's really, so that aspect of it. Also, I just want to give that game some flowers because it got real beat up over this year.
Sure.
Because it just came out at a rough time and then just did not make any waves the rest of the year.
Yeah. It's also why I have the platinum in Celeste, was because adjusting accessibility did not bother that platinum at all. So people that like, bent over backwards doing every flawless platforming in there, I have the same platinum you have for walking across the bottom when I turned off like no fall damage or whatever. Anyway. Up next, best performance. The nominees are here: Brianna White as Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell as Max Caulfield in Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez as Kay Vess in Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts as James Sunderland, Silent Hill 2, and Melina Jurgens as Senua in Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Last year's winner was Neil Newman of Astarion and Baldur's Gate 3 fame. My pick and prediction here, Brianna White. I think Aerith. Well, I would have probably filled this out with a few other characters from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for performances this year, or thrown in some Metaphor Refantasio performances or something like that. I think Brianna White as Aerith was certainly an emotional centerpiece of that game. So that's who I'm gonna throw my weight behind on this one.
Same.
Yep.
That's my prediction, and that's my personal pick. The work Seven Rebirth did on letting these characters breathe and interact with each other in a way really helps put Brianna White's performance like center stage. It feel like she is the kind of like, she oftentimes throughout the entire game feels like the actual quote unquote true protagonist going through it. And here's the thing, like I'm a Cloud Tifa guy. I know that.
Clody, yeah.
I'm a Clody for sure.
Same.
But god damn if I didn't want to take Aerith on the date. There is something very special about her. If you go pursue it as a friendship, there's something extremely special about the friendship between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith that is explored in this game so well. And I think, once again, the link that makes it work is Aerith. And it's Aerith both liking Cloud, but also loving Tifa and wanting her and Cloud to work out, because there's something about this just wonderful love that is shared between these friends that works so well on such a deep intrinsic level that the conversations Tifa and Aerith have with each other off screen that you don't see, but you see the ramifications of, as they're both concerned about Cloud, speaks to their friendship and speaks to the sisterhood that they have, that they share. And it makes the events of the game so brutal. I'm on the record of saying I don't particularly care for a way of like how that is framed and done in the end. I would have preferred it to be more straightforward. But the loss, this is spoilers for a game that came out in 1997. When Aerith dies, the performance that Tifa's voice actress, who I can't recall at this moment, but the performance she does feels like a real hurt. And I think that only works with Brianna White's performance as Aerith. There is when she does simple like yay lines, you feel it feels real. You feel the excitement just come through it in a way that just is not captured by other people. As much as I liked Humberly Gonzalez as KVS, like I said, performances in that game,
Suffering from a bad game around her.
Yeah. The only problem with Star Wars Outlaws is the gameplay. Everything else about that game is spectacular.
Sure.
The gameplay, though, is the thing that carries it down. So the performance, I feel like if she wins, flowers for her. That was such an incredible performance. I really loved it. I don't know if there's anybody on this list that I'd be like, I would be upset if they won. Aside from, I don't know how Hannah Tale did as Max Caulfield this time around.
Yeah. Britt Baron was the voice of Tifa.
Thank you.
First. Hannah Tell, slides right back into Max. The problem that I had with that is that, as I touched on in probably, we probably didn't actually podcast about it, because I was like, I don't really want to crap on this game.
Yeah, that was the thing. We were supposed to do it, but then we spent so much time talking about
Veilguard,
yeah.
Yeah. There are, the problem is,
she sucks.
It's not anything actually with her performance. It's bad direction in terms of, okay, this really traumatic thing happened to you, but the player might interact with this thing in the world. So go ahead and here's the thing you'll say about that thing in the world. But there's no connection between I'm really processing this shit that just happened. Oh God, what? Oh look, it's that thing. And it's just she ends up coming across in a lot of those I'm picking up a thing and I'm looking at it or I'm interacting with it. All of those just kind of come from a neutral place that is incredibly dead and neutral.
That's so fascinating because in the original one, it was more of inquisitive. I'm picking this up. Is this any different because of what's happened?
Yeah, no. So it's not. So that's my comment on their performance. It would have been I think a fascinating shakeup based on what we're hearing about Indiana Jones. If Indiana Jones had come out a month earlier and Troy Baker were in here for
I've heard for Indy.
Yeah. So I imagine he'll be a front runner for next year's
for sure
awards if people think to remember that he wasn't nominated here.
Recency bias could be a real thing, but also I wouldn't be surprised if Machine Games does DLC for Indiana Jones.
Sure. True. I mean, plus, it's going to get the PlayStation release in March, so
true, yeah,
it'll have kind of a second life next year anyway.
for sure.
Yeah, and then Melina Jurgens, having previously won for the first Senua game, like wouldn't surprise me if she kind of gets flowers again for this one. But
I mean, you said yourself that her performance is fantastic.
Yeah, her performance is great. It's just an incredibly slow and trying game to get through that performance more than anything. So, and then I can't speak to Silent Hill 2 apart from people said that, like, hey, one of the especially good things about this version compared to the previous version is like the acting in the original Silent Hill games is atrocious, notoriously atrocious, and this time around, they're actually good. So there you go, James Sunderland or Luke Roberts as James Sunderland. But yeah, both of us back in our gal Aerith. Up next, best audio design. Last year's winner was Hi-Fi Rush. The nominees this year are Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. Now, this could very much be like anybody's game.
Oh, for sure.
Really. Like each of them especially, I think, has their own little like niche that they're tackling. Like when I first see this, I think like, and I see Astrobot, I think of the sound design coming out of the DualSense and like the little tapping of metal as you're running across those kinds of things. Or I think about the environmental sounds that you'll hear in Senua's Saga. As I said in my review, one of the big gripes is that the voices are drastically cut back in the second game, so you don't have like the a voice coming from every direction kind of thing. A lot of it is just like one voice kind of bearing down on you. And yeah, maybe they play around with like surround sound things there. Black Ops 6, obviously a Call of Duty, and the gun stuff is always, solid sound design. And I'm sure Silent Hill 2 is scary AF. But my pick here, both again, pick and prediction. My predictions are leaning heavily into a good night for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because that's who I picked here. We'll see if that's what shakes out, but yeah, that's where I went with this one. In particular, and this will kind of bleed a little bit into the next category of best score in music, but it's like the soundscape of Final Fantasy VII, like up-resed into the modern era, is just always phenomenal and great and fun. So that's why I went with that one. How about you?
My personal pick and my prediction are both Astrobot.
Okay.
When it comes to audio design, not only coming through the controller, but also just the remixes of classic PSX, like PlayStation game themes.
Sure.
The tink 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 tink, and like the pleasure of hearing Astrobot run through different things and different materials and different like surfaces.
Sure.
The sound of his jetpack hitting solid ground or hitting water, like the audio design in that game is just masterful. It's just a masterpiece. There's no, like, my problem with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a lot of those empty space moments don't, like, I didn't, like, here's the thing. I cared about the sound of what Astrobot does and when he goes across certain surfaces. I don't care what the difference between the Chocobo running across the surface and Cloud running across the surface. It's just running across the surface. There's not that intimacy of audio design.
Sure.
In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think the audio design is fantastic for the most part, but it never jumped out at me in a way. And it's rare that a game does that for me. Because even though I am like a music guy, audio design wise, like audio sound wise, I'm not. This is back to like my biggest flowers I can give The Last of Us Part 2 is the sound design in that game is phenomenal. It is like audio design. Oh, same thing. The audio design in that game was light years ahead of its competitors. So like it definitely wins that for me.
Yeah.
Astrobot does the same thing. I'm immediately picking up on different things, and it's not only am I picking up on it, I'm enjoying it. And I get excited. Oh, I'm about to go over some water. Okay, here's the change in audio. Yeah, like it does something to me. And that's why it's my pick for that.
Sure. Cool. All right. Next up, best score and music. As I tipped my hand previously, my pick and prediction here are going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But the other nominees are Astrobot, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. And last year's winner was Final Fantasy 16, Soken. And it is noticeable, I did notice that this year they're just back to like here's the game that's nominated. They didn't like throw out for conductor, or at least the Game Awards Wikipedia page does not have listed the composers themselves. But yeah, again, to your point, I would absolutely not be bummed for Astrobot winning this, because the Astrobot version of some of those like great like Uncharted or God of War or Horizon themes was such a delight and elevates some of those levels so incredibly. But at the same time, there was a lot of Astrobot music that I felt didn't live up to the potential established in the Astro's Playroom.
Sure.
Thing. Like the incredibly catchy GPU songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get like one or two little like hints at that kind of level of fun, joy, and creativity, but they backed off on a lot of that, and it surprised me a little bit. So
I agree with you on that.
So yeah, and then Metaphor Fantazio. Well, I certainly never got like bored of the soundtrack. I also like it did the thing that Persona soundtracks are great with too, of like really great in the moment, never gets in the way of itself, but I don't really think about the songs too much afterwards, apart from maybe like one or two. And like right now I couldn't even like hum the Metaphor stuff, despite 2 playthroughs of the game and arguably having heard the battle theme so much. I'm sure like if I heard it, yeah, it would immediately come back to me and stuff. But like it wasn't it didn't resonate in the way that full orchestrations of the music that I've known for 20 years from Final Fantasy, almost 30 years, 25 years from Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
The way that those full orchestrations immediately like are resonating and ringing around in my head. So Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is my easy pick and my prediction for the win here.
Same for me as far as my prediction and my pick as well.
Yeah.
The new life that it gives so many Final Fantasy VII songs in the soundtrack, in score, the music of it is just phenomenal, but also the performance of the newly added song that Brianna White sings. I don't know if she sings it.
Lauren Allred is the voice, who also did she was the one that sings Never Enough in The Greatest Showman.
Oh, okay.
She was like the stunt singer of it. Yeah, she sings Never Enough versus Rebecca Ferguson, I believe, is the like the actor playing it, but yeah, the voice behind it, Lauren Allred, also the voice
in this
of Aerith in that song. Yeah,
for sure. That song's beautiful. It made me cry. There is just, it does not, no other soundtrack hit. I love Metaphor ReFantazio's soundtrack. I think it's really good, but I also think it's the weakest Atlas soundtrack that came out this year. I think Persona 3 Reload has as heads up, I've been playing it recently, and it has, I feel like, a better soundtrack. It's interesting, and the reason why I think it's a better soundtrack is there's way too many old Persona motifs in Metaphor ReFantazio that I don't feel like it did enough to like separate itself out from the Persona games.
Sure.
And I know it's the same too, like I know all the arguments about it, but if this is a new property and a new IP, I really wish it has a couple like of its own songs that are good and strong, but there's not enough of them to really like make it stand out and make it better than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, I mean, it like carrying over to the Final Fantasy comparison, like songs from Final Fantasy VI compared to Final Fantasy VIII or IX or something, like there is a distinct tone and themes to different Final Fantasy games, despite them all being Nobuo Uematsu, in those early years, and now Soken kind of in these later years. Like, while there are still going to be some consistencies of like the overture and stuff like that, or the Chocobo, whatever this game's version of the Chocobo theme is, will still be there. But like, they do a spin on it that feels like it brings something new, or you can like pinpoint and say, oh, that's a Final Fantasy VIII song versus a Final Fantasy VI versus here, where it's like, is that a Persona song? Is that a Metaphor song?
It doesn't have as much like modern like musical notes, like touchstones. So I'd say, oh, that's probably Metaphor. Metaphor does go back to kind of like the orchestra and the like the wind instruments and stuff like that in a really great way. But like I said, nothing about there's like the motif of and like the standout kind of like song of Metaphor is a piano song, and it's very beautiful. It's the song that you hear when you go into academia and other things like that, but it's not a like you're trying to tell me that Metaphor ReFantazio soundtrack is better than Persona 3 Reload, where brand new songs from the same artist who did the original Persona 3 game doing a brand new opening song and a brand new everything. Like it just doesn't compare in a nice way. I feel like Metaphor was the wrong pick for this category from an Atlas property. Sure. I would have a harder time between Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Persona 3 Reload if that was the case, but it's not. So it's 7 Rebirth for sure.
Yeah. Up next we have Best Art Direction. We're down to like our final 5 categories here. Best Art Direction. Last year's winner was Alan Wake 2. This year the nominees are Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. This is one of the rare ones where I switch up my pick versus prediction. My pick here would be Astrobot. Love the art direction of Astrobot infinitely, but my prediction here would be Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. I think, if anything, and since it's in this category and eligible, I think them Elden Ring fans are going to get Erdtree to the top on this one. So that's what I'm thinking. How about you?
For me, best art direction, this is where I was kind of torn because one of the nice things about Black Myth Wukong was the art direction. The art direction in that game is really stellar. And I don't know if it's gonna carry it. And this is a big thing too. It's like, is the Chinese audience out there, the global audience, gonna come into the Game Awards and support it? I think if that was the case, because that obviously the lens of their culture and their stories, they would probably have like a better read on this than us. That being said, the art design in that game is phenomenal. Like, I see your thing about Erdtree. My thing about that, and my personal pick for this is actually Metaphor ReFantazio. I think the art direction in this game is beyond stellar. I think it's some of the best art direction that we've ever seen. Whether it's the introduction of like watercolors, like an interactive watercolor painting that you're in and fighting through, and all these things, as well as just the use of classic art to design the humans around, the like really fresh, new and fun looks of the archetypes, that they didn't feel like, oh, these are personas.
Sure.
They felt unique to themselves. Even though one of them is literally called Persona Master. Granted, that's like an inside joke and a fun little tease on everything.
And the summons you get are Persona.
But
like that is like, hey, yeah, it is fascinating that the enemies aren't personas, you know,
yep.
and you like, yeah, you
or
only
demons
see
from the like other things. Like actual monsters, original design monsters are in this game.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, yeah, Summoner is technically like the demon/devil summoner class from the Devil Summoner games. Soul Hacker's even in this one, like that's one of the archetypes. But even then, it doesn't look like it's from that game. It does such a great job of like really playing with itself and like the way that the archetypes are supposed to be different. Shout out to the Mogul, like advanced class for being like just egregious. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it is that archetype is the personification of, what's the song from Aladdin? Ali.
Prince Ali.
Prince Ali. Like that song is personified in this persona. It is just so over the top in like how flamboyant and like wealth related it is, which makes it perfect for what it is. I have such a massive love of the art direction in this game. The inspiration from it that feels so fresh and new, even though your characters for the first 3 characters you pick up pretty much like are coded from old Persona games.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like it's great. It's so great. And I love the art direction on the world, the different areas you go to that are like, there's no combat there. There's no story there. You are literally taking a break to admire the beauty of this landscape. And it's breathtaking. Some of them are absolutely breathtaking, and just gorgeous. And it's like, this is awesome. This is so like, this is beyond amazing. And like the engine they're using on it is a PS4 engine technically. And it's incredible. They did such an amazing job with the art direction. This is the award that I think it deserves. However, I do not believe that it will receive it.
So what's your prediction?
My prediction is going to be Neva.
Neva. All right. All right. Yeah. That's. I mean, that is.
I'm counter picking.
Sure.
Because I don't want it to once again. If you look above, a lot of the same things again.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Like I'm counter picking. I will admit the loss on this one. I think Erdtree probably will win.
And
but I'm
Neva certainly it like that. That
if it's going to win
the
an award,
thing that like it has going for it is it's beautiful. Like as I said, despite my gripes about it, you take any second screenshot of that game and you could hang it on a wall and it'd be a beautiful art piece. Doesn't make for great gameplay all the time, but it is an incredibly beautiful game. So I can fully appreciate that as well. Next, best narrative. Again, last year the winner here was Alan Wake 2. We were in the little run of Alan Wake wins. The nominees this year are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantasio, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. Where are you going on this one, Cam?
My personal pick is going to be Metaphor. I just feel like Metaphor has a better narrative. But my actual prediction is going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
I feel like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has a very good narrative until it gets lost in itself, and then it has like a really rough landing.
Sure.
On that matter though, like on that level though, I feel like Metaphor just sails through its story just perfectly. Never feels like it never overstays its welcome in certain places. It nails what it needs to nail, and you feel like you are on this incredible journey the entire time.
Yeah, it is fascinating that like 2 of the 5 nominees here are retreads of the same narrative from 20 years ago plus kind of thing with Final Fantasy and Silent Hill. But I will give a shout out to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
I thought that was the one you'd go with.
Has a ton of fun. Like I absolutely adore Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and it hurts that like I'm not putting it up for any awards because I think other things are better. But it is just full of charm, and it is the Yakuza Like a Dragon charm, which doesn't always mean best narrative charm, but there's a ton of fun in it. And it is like, a gameplay ass game and a fun ass game to do. Like if there was like a award for like best side quests, I'd be like, yeah, let's give that to Infinite Wealth, because all the bonkers shit you do out in Hawaii or in was it Yokohama? I don't remember where the Japanese set stuff was, but still a ton of fun. And so yeah, giving it some flowers here just in the conversation. But yeah, my picks for both pick and prediction are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Again, much like with Remake, taking something familiar, fleshing out a lot of stuff, and especially like with Remake, it was like, wow, they took such a small chunk of that game and blew it up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like but they've said this is going to be a trilogy of games. So like, how much are they going to do? And so to get so much of this game as like the second game, basically get the rest of disc 1 in this game and still do the same thing of like really blowing up some things. Yeah, cutting down some things too, or just kind of omitting some things. But the things that they really like expand on and build out that narrative on to make such a grandiose thing here. I mean, like starting out, like all the extra stuff that you get in Calm.
For sure.
Especially since they had kind of already tipped the hand on like the Calm stuff in the first game. They kind of already gave you like those flashbacks and sequences and stuff. So yeah, a lot, and the expanded world building and the like. It's something that I'm sure you probably resonated with so much more than I did, but the fact that it also registered for me is, I think, a tell in and of itself. The fact that like I was intrigued by the nods to a pre-Shinra world in the game.
That was awesome.
The war between Shinra and Junon and stuff like that, and the like the glimpses you get to see of like what that used to look like, the highways that existed before Shinra kind of came in and disrupted the landscape and all that stuff. Just again, beautiful open world, but the narrative in and of itself, a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't necessarily like all of the like end game choices, but it's also this game probably more than any game I've ever played. My thoughts on it will be drastically changed based on how the next game plays.
Yeah.
Like if because there are still plenty of things they can do in the next game that will drastically recontextualize what we've seen in this game and even what we saw in Remake. And there was like a hint of that in Remake, but like Remake also ended on such like a big what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like what are they doing? Oh my god, they have like they've remade the story of Final Fantasy VII, and Sephiroth is remaking the story, you know, to suit his needs. So all bets are off. The
It
fact
won't
that
remain just a memory.
yeah, the fact that like this game hews more or less close to like how the original game plays out. Some, you know, diversions here and there, but it was like, oh, this one didn't feel like it took the big swings, but that might just be because we don't know everything that's going on.
Well, it's interesting because these aren't the big swings because one, I did like Midgar is so freaking iconic
Yeah.
on so many levels. So when they focus that and make an entire game out of that, I feel like everything's a big swing.
I mean, the big swing I'm in particular thinking from Remake is like
the end.
The end where it's like, wait,
Yeah.
Zack is alive? What? Like, what are we seeing?
Yep.
And even in this one, like this game starting out with us playing as Zack and being like, what the fuck is going on was a fascinating kind of twist. So I
feel
so
like
that is very much a like my thoughts on this game's narrative will be drastically influenced by whatever the third game's narrative ends up being to either cement some things that happened in this game or like say, aha, you thought you knew, but nope, here's what was really going on kind of stuff.
For me in particular, that's why it's a weaker narrative.
Sure.
Because
it's not giving you all the answers in and of itself.
Well, it's just there was the swing of the ending of Remake is a big like what WTF because it's so like compacted and contained in that moment at the very end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's like kind of scattered, like sprinkled throughout the rest of the game,
and notably,
and then it doesn't give you a feeling of like resolution. It tells you, hey, by the way, what you thought like this, nope, we're just not going to give it to you. And I'm like, I don't like this.
There's a whole fun thing where
it feels like you cut out a piece of the game. I don't care for that.
Like when you're replaying in the like post, I almost alluded to this earlier when we were talking about the Aerith stuff. After you beat the game, you can go back and like replay chapters, and you can in the options you can say like replay, and you can determine who you want to go on the date with, or who
I've seen
like,
that, yeah,
for each of the chapters and stuff like that. So you can kind of pick and choose rather than like
I did that to see
via the gameplay.
I did that to see all the dates.
Yeah, the bigger thing here is you can basically make all of the Zack stuff skippable. Like you can just kind of skip over all of those scenes, and so it's the fact that they kind of like recognize that that's an extraneous part of the game. Once you know it's there, you don't need to like sit through it again very much. Is like that also is maybe potentially telling, but we'll see how that all shakes out. But yeah, so you're going with or we're both going with Final Fantasy VII, but your personal pick here being Metaphor.
Yep.
Versus mine of Final Fantasy VII. Next up, Best Game Direction. The nominees are Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. Again, last year's winner, Alan Wake 2. Where are you sitting on game direction here?
This is a tough one for me because I think there's a lot of strong candidates here that can really pull it off. They think this is probably the tightest one when it comes to like who could win this one. I am personally going to say this one is going to go for Rebirth. The reinterpretation of that section of the game, the way they expand it, the way that they make it the entire game. That's not my prediction. Sorry, that's my personal pick.
Gotcha.
Is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Just the level of detail they give you. You mentioned earlier, hey, can't you probably really care about this? I do care. I do care about the Republic of Junon. Mm-hmm. I do care about their righteous fight against Shinra. The fact that they were a like seafaring republic, and it's and the history and the context of it that make that section of the game feel beautiful and wonderful and lived in. Whether it's everything at Shinra, like Shinra and the Shinra Mansion, like the Shinra Manor stuff is just next level, so good. To the point like also like the Vincent stuff that you interact with. Let's just talk about Queen's Blood for a second. Queen's Blood is one of the best mini games of the year, sure. And on top of that, it has like. It's crazy they bring Vincent into that. And then like the way that how that ends at the very end of the Queen's Blood quest line is bonkers insane. The fact that they're like, hey, did you like Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid? Cool. Here's like a cool Final Fantasy version of that kind of story with some really cool tactical gameplay. And I'm like, this is crazy and awesome, and I love it. Yeah, so it has the best game direction for me. To take something that existed before and do that, I think is a lot different of a task than taking something that never existed and making something out of it. But this is where Metaphor ReFantazio, I feel like, also plays it safe in a lot of ways. Is it gives you a lot of cool features and a lot of cool things about that, and it works for its narrative and it works for the world that it's in. But there's not a strong like game direction. Like the game direction is very like by the numbers. It has and it's because it stays so loyal and strong to its narrative. I think it's a benefit for Metaphor that it doesn't have like a drastically crazy game design, like game direction that they're doing with it. It helps because it's a new property. But Rebirth really needed to step into that unknown, step into that bigger, like a bigger task to take on. Because if it doesn't work, people are going to hate your game. And you're going to be like, wow, that was just a real letdown. So yeah, for me, that's the case on that. But because my prediction is going to be Erdtree.
Erdtree? Yeah.
Yep. Shadow of the Erdtree, I feel like I don't want to qualify it for anything personally for any of my personal picks because it's a DLC. And as per my like, it's something that I've also made a decision on. Shadow of the Erdtree will not be considered for my Game of the Year list. It will be a special mention, and I'll write up probably a good chunk of that, like about how much I loved it. But it does not. I broke it once, and it was for
we both broke it for Final Fantasy Endwalker.
Yeah.
Which is the like, yeah, we're a little bit of hypocrites on that, but I would also be like, but I had a solid backup if I were to say like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and rule that one out.
Yeah. For me, it's like you cannot tell me the culmination of 10 years of storytelling. Like Dawn Trail's not going to be in my Dawn Trail does not get that exception.
Yeah.
It is going to be. I'll write up about it, my thoughts on it, but when it comes to the actual list, no DLCs on my list.
Yeah. But making the prediction here for Erdtree.
Yeah, because
as a counter pick to my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
Solid. And yeah, that's again knowing people's love and fervor for the game direction of Elden Ring. Fully would not be surprised to see that. I just don't want to see it. So I'm predicting with my heart maybe more than my brain.
Yep. I will say Erdtree, like, because it's so compact, probably has more and like feels more cohesive of game game direction. It just works super well for a DLC. They absolutely kill it on that. But like I don't want to count DLC, but I will predict one.
Yeah. Our penultimate here, we will go with Player's Voice. This is the fan-voted game award. We're recording this on Saturday, December 7th, so I don't think any of the, I don't think we've made it past, the first round of votes or anything like that, so I'm just going to go off of, the 30 that were, considered, nominees here. And I'm actually not even going to bother reading the 30, but we have it here as a resource if you need. But what would be your pick and prediction here for Game of the Year? And this is where this is very much anything goes. No Man's Sky is in consideration for this or something like that.
This is where I think this is the award that Erdtree should win.
So is that your?
That's my prediction. That's my prediction and my pick.
Yep.
Erdtree, I just feel like this is not the Game of the Year. But Player's Voice, if this is the game that really resonated with you the most this year, you want to make that heard, this is the award you give for a DLC.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Erdtree makes all the great arguments that you should make for it. It just does not reach that threshold for us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same in terms of Erdtree is also my prediction. I think the rabid fan base of Erdtree is going to come out for this. The alternative might be like a Black Myth Wukong surprise on this one.
A dark horse on that, but honestly, like I said earlier, if the Chinese fan base really comes in for it, it'll be a big upset in that case.
But yeah, my personal pick here would be, as with many others, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth would be my personal vote for Player's Voice Game of the Year. And then we get our proper final Game of the Year. And Baldur's Gate 3 was the winner of the Player's Voice last year, as well as the Game of the Year last year. The nominees this year are Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio, many of which we've already talked about at length. So I'm going to just say my pick and prediction here: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Again, I'm banking on like people reflecting back and remembering what a strong outing that was, how blown away everybody was by like the scale of that game, especially like even the people that didn't go back and realize that like when you get to the end of that game, everything is connected and you basically go like while you've been encountering the world in like piecemeal chunks, by the time you get the tiny Bronco, you can take that tiny Bronco all the way back to Calm, kind of thing. And the fact that it is like that massive interconnected world, really powerful, and also leads me to be like, cool. So they've already got all this shit built for the next game. Maybe we'll get the next game a little bit quicker.
That's the hope, right? Yeah.
I mean, the fact that like even this was a 3-year turnaround from Final Fantasy VII Remake to like rebuild or to build all of this world, using so little of like the Midgar assets being reused or anything like that here. Very impressive. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, my pick here. So where are you falling on this one, Cam?
For me, my pick is actually going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This is what, if you ask me what the game of the year is for the Game Awards, this is the one I would select. I feel like it has the most it's given for it. However, my prediction is Erdtree. The world will burn. Too? The world is going to burn.
Yeah.
The cries of all the nerds who don't believe DLC should be included in Game of the Year will be screaming. The only thing I can say that I would love more than that is a Balatro upset.
That'd be nice.
A Balatro upset would just be the like it would just be the perfect like nobody saw this coming.
It'll be this year's It Takes Two kind of thing.
That's my thought too. It's like this year's It Takes Two coming out of left field and just taking that crown. It'd be cool to see. Once again, though, I also think, to reiterate, if Black Myth Wukong could definitely be a dark horse depending on that Chinese audience.
Yeah. And that's like I think the Chinese audience comes into much more play in the player's voice category because the rest of the categories themselves are like the outlets voting.
And, I apologize. Yeah, no, I was wrong on that. Yeah,
there is.
I mean, there's still love for
a notable, or there is a sizable chunk of Chinese outlets that are putting their votes into the other awards. I don't know if they'll like, even if like they all banded together to try and push Black Myth Wukong forward, if that would outweigh the nods for the other games. But all right, so trying to sort. I think we differ on like 10.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying to throw a filter in here. Let me see. No, come on. Where are you? All these things. Okay. Trying to like filter a spreadsheet while
recording.
While recording a podcast about it. Let's see. There we go. Got them all filtered. And scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, we differ on 10 out of 21 categories. So, potential for us to tie still, but I think that's probably enough that one of us will certainly be owing another Portillo's. One last thing before we wrap up. Are you expecting to see any big like reveals or trailers or anything like that?
I'm thinking, if we're talking big reveals or trailers, I'm thinking a GTA 6 one.
I think that would certainly be the golden goose for Jeff.
But would he get it?
I don't think Rockstar gives a shit. And I don't think they need to give Jeff anything. I think they can drop that on whatever day they want to drop it, and they'll still be the biggest news of the day. They could drop it. If they really want to be like dicks, they could drop it
during the Game Awards?
In contrast for the Game Awards. Like, yeah, and it would be the biggest news story of the day.
That'd be a giant middle finger to Jeff for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes, with the last couple of years, maybe.
I would gladly see Jeff humbled. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be great. As somebody who like gets notifications still about, like, I got to go in and turn Jeff off.
I always think back to like the first year. Was it the first year that Summer Game Fest or Summer like One Night Live or Opening Night Live or whatever it was, whatever his like Summer Game Fest thing was, the first year of that, like people were like for years afterwards be like, here are all our predictions for that. And it was like, You're forgetting that the biggest announcements from that first one was that like news broke during it that Sony was acquiring Insomniac. That had nothing to do with Jeff's show. Like nothing of note or value came out of like Jeff's presentation. Like no major announcements, no major like.
And he tries to tell people to
that.
like that's the thing though is he also tries to tell people no, I'm not like this summer.
Sometimes he does.
Yeah.
Sometimes he does. Sometimes.
Well, it's in his best interest to not always do it, of course.
Yeah.
Which the financial interest of him not always doing it.
Yeah.
But when he comes to it, he also puts out. He goes, I heard the rumors. You think I have Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer? I do not have Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer.
Yeah.
Do not please don't fill up our the media feeds on that because it's going to make it really hard to track everything else that people care about.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean I'm trying to think what my like.
Oh gosh, if that's not the case, if it's not GTA 6, I don't know what it would be then.
I mean, yeah, like my big guess would be like Kojima's already going to be there. Maybe he
Death
gives
Stranding
like
2.
a date. Like here's the final Death Stranding 2 trailer or whatever, and here's when it's coming out. I don't know, something like that would probably be what I would expect. But yeah, it's such a I'm not planning on really watching along. I'm just going to kind of like compile the results after the fact. I'll probably just be playing Indiana Jones or something this week instead. So, and then I'll catch whatever the big trailers are after the fact. But, so yeah, I've not really been paying too much attention. I saw somebody out there tweeting like, it's going to be a big one. It's like, all right, like, sure.
Ghost of Yote, maybe?
I feel like no, because like they've already gave us we got the like reveal trailer for it. They said it's 2025. Like maybe Wolverine, maybe a big Wolverine trailer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
from Sony.
From Sony, yeah. I could see that
with like a 2025 date or 2025 official kind of thing on it. We'll probably see some Last of Us 2 scene like
the TV
show.
Yeah,
we'll probably get something for that.
I can see that. I mean, that'd be
Jeff
great.
loves, and again, like I said earlier, like we'll probably see something from like the Fallout show. Whether that's like here's a deleted scene from season 1 or here's behind the scenes or a casting announcement for season 2 or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
We will see. But more or less, this is just a fun little thing to give us a reason to go grab Portillo's.
Sure.
But that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk through all this stuff. As we touched on, we will, of course, do our actual our favorite games of the year in the new year, as we always do. We'll kind of give ourselves all of 2024 to actually enjoy the things that all come out in 2024. Even though I imagine for the most part our lists are probably locked in. There's like 1 or 2 more things that we're going to check out. Like I said, I'll probably check out Indiana Jones this week, and I think both of us are interested in checking out the Power Rangers game here in December. But other than that, it's pretty much it's just a matter of like slotting in and doing our write-ups. And then on the movie side of things, obviously we'll have that at some point in January as well. And some of our just other favorite things from 2024. So stay tuned for all that in the weeks ahead. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, we just did the podcast for that D Plus show for the Skeleton Crew. We had a lot to say about it. We had a really fun time talking about it. If you guys want to go check that out, it's the new hotness on Disney Plus. Go check that out.
Indeed. You follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. In addition to Skeleton Crew, which, we talked about the first couple episodes. This week's That D Plus show will be on the Inside Out spin-off Dream Productions. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll probably... for this podcast next week, we'll probably have some Indiana Jones thoughts. You've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals, so I'm sure we'll have kind of some thoughts on that.
Yes.
We're planning on going to check out Wicked, so you can go see Wicked finally after this. So you can also give your impressions on Wicked. In addition to the thoughts that I gave previously. So stay tuned to this podcast next week for all that fun stuff. And we'll figure out, of course, who won the Portillo's bet. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.